where you started to where you are now, like as you look back, what stands out to you through that journey? I would imagine it's maybe different than you thought it would be, but are there some things that stood out to you?
I think a lot of people like look for this shiny, bright object at the end of the yellow brick road, right? And everything's going to be perfect and fulfilling, and
right.
It's going to be the perfect job. That was one of the things I struggled with as an electrical contractor. Like, I didn't enjoy it necessarily. I didn't enjoy a lot of aspects of it, and I was getting worn down, but I'm like, there's got to be something else better out there. But I think ultimately, like, you're always going to run into struggles. You're always going to run into stresses in life. If you're really going to go after something and want to be impactful and successful, like, you're going to hit a lot of roadblocks.
Right.
That's one thing I was like hoping I would avoid. Like, I'm going to start this new company. Everything's going to be perfect, and I'm going to be passionate about it, and I'm not going to have any issues. And obviously, that's been far from the truth.
Right.
So just accepting the fact, like, you know, this is life, and it's just how do you deal with that, and how do you respond to those type of situations.
Welcome everybody to another edition of the Be Bright podcast. Today I'm here with Matt Kuiper of Desert Plunge. Excited to have him on, tell his story. I'm actually a customer of theirs and 100% believe in not only the product, but just, you know, hearing your story kind of blew me away. So happy to be able to take some time to chop that up. But before we get into that, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about yourself and where you're from and, you know, your family, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So born and raised here in Arizona. I grew up in Tempe, and then I went to Valley Christian High School, and then graduated there, and tried to figure out what I was going to do with my life, and ended up going to trade school for college.
Nice.
And I became an electrician. So that's where my kind of journey started. I was an electrical contractor for 20 years.
Cool.
With a company called K2 Electric.
Okay.
And then just kind of worked my way up through the company. And I think it was like 2019, became a partner, and things were going great. But that's kind of how my journey transitioned into cold plunging around 2019. I had some type of weird nervous breakdown. I don't know what it was. It was severe anxiety, insomnia, depression, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. It had been 7 months of just debilitating mental health issues. And that's when I found cold therapy. I had tried medications, I'd tried, you know, EMDR, I tried talk therapy, I tried everything you could think of. And it wasn't until I got in cold water, it just completely snapped me out of it. So,
are you still paying the electric company for power every single month? You're not only losing money, you're investing in someone else's future, not your own. Bright Home Energy has over 400 5-star reviews and over 100 5-star reviews on the BBB. That means real homeowners just like you are already making the switch with quality and peace of mind. We are the preferred solar installer for Solar Edge Technologies in Arizona. Not a title that was given, but a title that was earned through quality, structure, and peace of mind. As a NABCEP certified solar installer and an APS qualified technology installer, your solar installation with Bright Home Energy is not good, it's top tier. So the choice is yours. You can either keep paying your utility company every month, making them rich, or you can make the switch to solar and start investing in your future today. Dang, no, and excited to kind of dive more into that. And I guess, you know, for you growing up here in the Valley, one of the few and proud of being here originally, you know, I always think it's interesting because somebody could go online right now and look up Desert Plunge and, you know, even on your stuff, your story, and they kind of look at, you know, like you guys have an awesome brand, you super successful, but what most people don't know is like the journey that it took to get there. And obviously with your story, it's like it wasn't all great. Even this idea and the passion and the business derived from some dark times. And so that's usually what we like to highlight here is just like, hey, everybody has a story. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes those character building moments are actually what can kind of turn into the best parts of life and business, but it doesn't always feel like that at the time. So, I mean, I guess for you growing up, like, were you active in sports and stuff, or what was sort of your foundation?
Active in sports. I was a big sports guy, played football. I started playing football, I think 7th grade,
Okay.
and that was a big passion of mine. Then played all the way through high school. I also did track. Earlier on, like freshman, I was a lot lighter. I ran. We actually broke the 4x1 freshman record when I was there, which was cool. And then I started getting bigger and bigger, and I ended up throwing shot and disc, which I really enjoyed too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess, because I always look back on the sports aspect of my life growing up, like playing football, basketball, baseball, definitely learned a lot of life lessons, from sports. Do you feel like now being a business owner, even just a man in life, like, do you look back on the sports parts of your life and feel like that really set a positive foundation for you? Or are there specific things that you feel like you learned that maybe you wouldn't have learned any other way?
Yeah, I think sports were a big part of that, which that's funny because my son, he's now 12, my daughter's 14, and we're pushing them towards sports. My son, he's not super competitive, but I always tell him, like, hey, we want you in sports because you can learn how to be a teammate.
Sure.
You get accountability. You're part of a group. So I think that's the kind of the biggest stuff I learned. Accountability, being accountable to others,
Right.
Structure. So yeah, those are definitely some things I took away being involved in team sports when I was younger.
Yeah, and I always feel like in business there's so much that I draw from the sports scenario, because it's like, man, you got to show up on days you don't want to.
Yep.
Like think of back at practice, like you're practicing if it's raining, if it's hot, if it's, back where I was from, snowing. Like, it didn't matter. Like, you're out there every single day, especially on the days you don't want to. Like you said, being a part of a team, learning how to work well with others, realizing that, hey, only you as an individual can do so much, but having other people around you, they have strengths, they have weaknesses. Together as a team, you can, complement each other. And then I think just, the hardest thing that I see, at least in our businesses, and is people don't want to feel like they suck at something. So, like, we have a new guy that will start in sales, and they won't give it the time it takes to be successful because that initial, like, fight or flight is like, this is uncomfortable, unnatural, don't feel good, I feel like I suck. But what you learn through sports and I think business, and this is where I feel like, at least even for my own personal development through cold therapy, is like, day by day, you get a little bit better. And before I kind of turn over to you to your story, I'll share a little bit about mine. So in high school, right, we'd get done with football practice, and every once in a blue moon, they're like, go sit in those cold tubs, and they'd pull out the big horse troughs and like a bunch of guys getting in there with some ice. And it was always the absolute worst freaking feeling of all time. You're like, man, how could anybody ever do that? And then, COVID hit. And I felt like, a lot of people just mentally were just wondering, like, hey, what, almost a reevaluation of, like, it's quiet, there's a lot of solitude, time with yourself, just really trying to figure out, what is for you. And growing up, I feel like different parts of life, like I had different bouts of, like, depression and things like that I didn't really know at the time. But as I'd gotten older, even into my early adult life, I felt like, hey, like I was still struggling with that. And then once I found cold therapy, I remember I was like, okay, I'm going to start doing it. Like, I had a cousin doing cold showers, and I finally just, like mentally just felt like I needed something. So I started doing it, and literally I kept track. It was like for the first 34 days of getting in a cold plunge for 2 minutes a day, I literally had to negotiate with myself every single day to get in there. And then there was something about, once that switch flipped, it was almost like my body, and even now, like, craves it, to where, I'll go sometimes because I have one in my garage, but I'll go with my business partner and a buddy, and like now we'll go sit in there for 5 or 10 minutes even. And it's cold and it's still mentally challenging, but, versus like when you first start, it's like you can only do it for 20 or 30 seconds, and now you get to like a 10-minute mark, and you're like, oh, 30 seconds is nothing. And I guess for you, if you don't mind, like kind of going back to that moment, like what was it about, like how did you find cold therapy? I mean, you said you tried medications, different things. Like, how did that come upon that? Was it just like a last-ditch effort, or?
Yeah, it was kind of like a last-ditch effort. Kind of like you, I mean, mental health issues weren't uncommon for me growing up.
Sure.
I mean, it's stuff I had struggled with. I'd actually been on depression medication when I was younger, and I'd kind of go in and out of it. But nothing that ever lasted as long as this had. So it kind of took me off guard and really knocked me back. So I tried to get on medication, and something changed in my body where just nothing was working this time. The side effects were so bad I couldn't stay on it. But I was determined, so I kept trying everything. And then it wasn't until my brother mentioned this guy called Wim Hof to me. He's like, hey, have you ever heard of this guy called Wim Hof? So he's like, check out, he does this breathing technique. So I started reading up on him. I was in, I think we were in Ecuador at the time, because this is when it all happened. So I started reading up on this guy, and I started practicing the breath work while I was in Ecuador. And I was like, I think there's something to that. And then I started reading up on Wim Hof more, and he had been struggling with depression. I think his wife had committed suicide. He was in a real dark, depressive state, and he found that cold water helped him out of his depression. So when we got back, I started experimenting with that a little bit. I think I tried cryotherapy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I felt good. I'm like, there's got to be something better. I started experimenting in the pool, but it wasn't until I went to Optimize, which was one of the first wellness centers that had cold tubs. And I remember that night, it was like 4 o'clock. I did my first cold plunge. I think one was at like 35 degrees and the second one was at 42 degrees. I did 2 in a row. And I was driving home that night, and like my eyes everything opened up again. Like the darkness had lifted. Like I did a complete 180. I got my sense of humor back that night. Like it was just amazing. So.
And I guess for you, obviously being, somebody who practices, it's not just a business, it's also a lifestyle and a wellness. I mean, I guess for you, if you kind of think back on that time, I mean, trying a bunch of different, I think about it like this, I guess, like for me, my experience with depression has usually been like sadness, loss, almost like being hard on myself or like putting all the blame on myself. But I feel like there's something about like the sauna as well as the cold therapy that it removes like everything except for like that survival instinct, at least in the initial front. And I think the easiest way I would describe it is just it clears everything out and kind of brings you back to a baseline of, it's kind of like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's like if you're in this cold water and you feel like you're dying, it's like everything else is kind of secondary. And that's awesome, man. That's crazy. I mean, I guess for you, so you start and you become a believer in cold therapy, right? So what happened after that? Did you keep going to Optimize? Did you get your own tank? Like, what was kind of the next progression? And then ultimately, how did that turn into an actual business and a new career path?
Yeah. So that was probably around October of 2019. So then I was going to Optimize, and then, 2020 comes around, COVID, starts becoming a thing. So I'm like, dude, they're going to shut Optimize down. I could see the writing on the wall. So I'm like, I got to figure out how to get one of these at home. So I started researching, found this Facebook forum group where they're still around today, Chest Freezer Cold Plunge. This guy, John Richter, I consider him a friend now, runs the group. But he has this book, a step-by-step guide on how to convert a chest freezer into a cold plunge. And so that's what I did.
That's awesome.
And literally the day Optimize shut down, I finished my chest freezer.
Wow.
So I just transitioned right into that. Now, stuff didn't stay shut down here too long, obviously. They shut down for about 2 weeks, but it was so nice to have one at home.
Right.
Where I had it in my garage, just walk out, jump in, as opposed to driving, I was in Chandler at the time, driving half an hour, 40 minutes, right? So it was super convenient. And my wheels started spinning. I'm like, people want these at home.
Right.
And at the time, I think it was Marasco was around, which is a good cold plunge, but very expensive.
Okay.
They're anywhere from $15,000 to, $25,000. And then the Plunge was another company that was around, and I think they were like $9,000. So I'm like, there's got to be something cheaper that that's going to be more affordable, that's still, you know, aesthetically pleasing, that someone could put out on their back patio or in their garage gym or something like that. Then I started making them out of stock tanks, which were cool. I would Line-X them, make them black. I put a tan cover on it. They look slick, but they just did not do well in Arizona. You could put a 1 horsepower chiller on it, and it's still running 24 hours a day. And I did sell a few of them, but people that bought them, put them inside, or just knew, hey, they're not going to get down to 39 degrees. And it wasn't until a buddy that was interested in buying one said, hey, I got a Grizzly cooler. Would you put a chiller on this for me? And I'm like, I guess. I'm like, I wasn't really that into it. I'm like, because it was still kind of a hobby for me. My electrical career was still trending upward. But I'm like, I'll do it. And I did it. I'm like, man, I think this is what I'm looking for it, because it's super efficient, it's easy to do, and it's scalable. And then I ended up going on vacation. I think it was in Israel, and then my wife posted it on Facebook Marketplace. And she sold 12 while I was gone. I came back, and then the rest was history from there.
Damn.
We knew we had something,
right?
You know, and it's just really like, how hard do we want to go after it,
right?
So
you go on vacation. She posts on Facebook Marketplace, and pre-sold 12 when you get back, and you're like, all right, I guess I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And I guess from that standpoint, I mean, was it just like, hey, we're all in at this point, or were you kind of doing both at the same time, or how did that phase of the startup phase work?
Yeah. So that was around like, I think that was probably like 22. Yeah, October of 22. I had formed the LLC when I was making stock tanks. Like, this will be a hobby. It'll be cool if I sell 100 a year.
Right.
And then 23 is when it really started. Early 23 is when we really started moving the Grizzly tubs. And at that point, right before that, I had told my business partner with K2 Electric, I'm ready to step down. I was just burnt out with the construction industry.
Right.
And I'd known that for a long time, but I finally just said I can't do it anymore. My plans were not desert plunge, but it just happened. Like, as I said, okay, I'm done with the construction industry, desert plunge just took that place. I phased out in 23, and then I was building desert plunge at the same time. I did have a warehouse in Mesa, and then I ended up moving it to K2 Electric.
Oh.
So we were building cold plunges out of the warehouse in K2 Electric for a while.
Okay.
Which was pretty convenient. So I was still working at K2, and then I had guys working in the warehouse. So, but it was fun. And, you know, at first it was just kind of, we did a lot of stuff on Facebook Marketplace, Instagram, and then SEO. And we were doing well, word of mouth, and that's how we were selling most of it for a while. And then now we kind of hit it from all angles: Google Ads, Meta, influencers, stuff like that. So
yeah, and I guess, you know, as you think about kind of the startup phase of a business, I mean, what were some of the bigger challenges that you all faced from the beginning?
I think obviously the biggest challenge for me was just deciding to go all in.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't call it cushy, but I had a very comfortable career. And, you know, my future was almost kind of like, I knew where my future was headed. Like, I was comfortable with that if that's what I wanted. So just like going into the unknown after being with this company for 20 years and then changing trajectory completely, like a complete 180, going from construction industry to an e-commerce brand, you know, that was the hardest part, having the faith to do that. And then I'm just learning everything. Like I went in this completely blind. I had no idea what I was doing. So yeah, just learning the e-commerce world, that's been tough. Learning how to work with influencers. Luckily, I was fortunate enough. I did have, you know, capital to invest in the business, which was nice. A lot of people don't have that, but that was fortunate. But I think the biggest thing was just having the faith to really just say, hey, I'm going to do this and go all in. Yeah.
What do you think it was that gave you that faith or the motivation to do it?
I think for sure my wife.
Okay.
She's, a glass half full type of person. I'm the glass half empty. So she's my big motivator.
Okay.
In her eyes, nothing can ever go wrong.
Okay.
Which is really helpful at times.
Yeah.
I always tend to see all the things that will go wrong. So she definitely pushed for it. And then it was funny because then when I finally said, okay, we're going all in, then she was like, whoa, I didn't think you'd actually do that. But she's definitely one of my biggest supporters, and we would not be where we're at today without her. Initially, she was very involved in the company. She really helped us grow. And then just my old business partner, Jared, at K2 Electric. I had so many conversations with him, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm terrified. Do you really feel like I should be doing this? I mean, he gave me so much support along the way. I think he was a big part of it too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing though is, as you branch out to something new, it's like, yeah, it's probably the most scary thing you ever did, but as we've learned and had a bunch of people on, is like, dude, everyone's just figuring it out as they go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
you're blazing new trails. It's like you're the one, you're going to learn, you're going to lose, you're going to win. But as long as you keep having that attitude of like, what can I continue to learn? How do we get better? How do we grow and adapt? I think that's what it's all about. And that's what I think I've enjoyed most about business is like, even when you walked in, you're like, how's solar with the rebates, tax credits? And it's like, none of us have a crystal ball, but we keep showing up every single day and you figure it out and you have good people in your corner. There's nothing that you can't accomplish, but obviously because of maybe how we were raised or different natural human fears, it's like it's always easy to look, like you said, like what could go wrong and will this work, will this not work? But there is something said about like, hey, when you go all in and you are all in, you just don't have any other option but to figure it out and make it work.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you kind of getting through that, and now, as far as with Desert Plunge, I mean, what I think is so cool about it is, it's something that, number one, you've experienced firsthand, which I think is a very compelling story. And number two, it's definitely a really good time for it. Maybe 10 years, 15 years ago, maybe not have had a chance to be as successful as it is. It hit the right time. What's the feedback that you get? I guess, like, so you have a business, right, and you're earning money. That's great. That's why we're in business. But I guess for you, what has come as a byproduct of that, like that you feel like has maybe been more fulfilling than just the money aspect? Whether it's feedback from clients, hearing their stories, like what is it now, maybe that compels you to move forward besides just the money aspect?
Yeah, I think definitely. Well, like you said, it's a product that I believe in, that I experienced firsthand. So, I think just mental health. Isn't obviously, I think we're all becoming more and more aware of it now. It's trending in the right direction. But being able to have a product that can support people in their mental health journey, and then I get so many emails, or early on when I was dealing with the customers one-on-one, I'd get so many phone calls and I'd get to speak to all of them directly on how cold therapy has changed their life and what it's done for them. That was super fulfilling. I obviously don't get to do that as much anymore, but I still do get to see some emails come across, which is nice. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is knowing how much it's helping people, whether it's mental health or even just recovering from an injury.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest drivers for me because, there's days where, like, I mean, like any business, you get overwhelmed and it's a lot, right? But this has been a little different. Going back to my career as an electrical contractor, I enjoyed it, but there was nothing like, it didn't fill my cup like this can. So yeah, that continues to drive me for sure.
Yeah, no, and I think, because even when I think about the cold plunging and cold therapy, it's definitely multifaceted. I think, you talked about, being, fulfilling essentially. So the way I look at it is it hits so many different parts. Like, obviously it's the physical aspect, like you said, recovering from an injury. Like, I've thrown my back out, could barely freaking walk, and the only relief I was getting is like I crawled into that freaking grizzly tub, and like finally it went numb and I was good, right? But more than that, it's like the mental reset, the emotional reset. Like if I'm ever having if I feel like low on energy and overheated because I've been out golfing or something, I'll pop in there. If I have to go to dinner, at night, and maybe I'm just like feeling a little sluggish, like hop in there for a couple minutes and you're like right back up. I mean, most of the time, I mean, I'm plunging like morning and night, and it is interesting because I've told some people sometimes you like almost, there comes a certain point where you almost don't really notice the benefits. And then what'll naturally happen is I'm like, all right, I got to clean my plunge out. And then it'll go a day or a few days and then a week or two. Like right now I'm like 2 weeks and I'm like, geez, I got to get back in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's something that, people can continue to practice. And I think what's cool about, we're a contractor as well. Like there's certain parts that like, hey, we have a business, we have employees, we're accomplishing projects, that's fulfilling. But I think it's really cool that like, there's no probably telling what positive impact you guys may have on people's lives, from mental health, emotional, spirituality, physical. And I think just having something that's continuing to do good for people, because I see your guys' stories every single day. I'd also like to ask this, like, so you started Desert Plunge and it's Arizona, but dude, every freaking person I see posting is like Hawaii and like, Florida and like other parts. Like, how did that kind of naturally happen? I mean, because I would imagine, like, was that your plan to like go just kind of as wide a net as possible, or how has that evolved over the last couple of years?
Yeah, that I struggled with for a while, like trying to decide whether I should just stay local, because obviously Phoenix is a huge market. So I'm like, well, we could really crush it here, and we could really serve our customers really, really well. Or I said, I know we can take this nationwide. I mean, we could probably do Mexico and Canada too if we wanted. So I really struggled with that for a while, and eventually I just said, you know what, we're going nationwide. I don't necessarily know why I decided to do it. I just felt we just had so many people reaching out from out of state, and I think we probably held off for like a good 6 months where we were not shipping outside of Arizona. And then I just made sure, okay, let's get all the logistics figured out. Let's make sure we can have a big enough team to support customers out of state if there's any issues, stuff like that. And once I felt comfortable with that, then I said, all right, let's do it. So
yeah, it just took off. I mean, a few things I've noticed. I think I've had mine 2 to 3 years. I mean, I feel like overall they're pretty darn low maintenance.
Yeah.
I mean, my experience has been works every time I need it to. When I have to get it, change out the filter and all that, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
I've had zero issues, never not worked. So, I mean, from that front, because mine's a couple years older, like, I guess right now, like, if someone's looking to get a plunge, like, I guess what's sort of the latest and greatest that you guys are offering now, and, what's kind of some advice, I guess, you would give somebody who's looking for a plunge and, like, trying to just set out to find the right fit for them?
So we haven't made a ton of changes. We've obviously come out with the newer model. You have our original one. We discontinued that. And then the new one we have is about 5.5 inches longer.
Okay.
So that's the one thing nobody really complained about the size, but
Right.
it said, okay, if there's one thing you could do, I'd like it a little longer, right? So we did make the tub a little bit longer. It's called the Exclusive. And then added just some additional features that help us in the manufacturing process, and then are just more convenient for the customers. And then we also have the wide tub, which is more of like a 2-person tub. So we have 2 models there. And then we also sell the tub only for the DIYers. Like, okay, I want to save a little money and do this myself.
Sure.
Some people just like to do hands-on stuff.
Smart.
So they just buy the tub and retrofit it themselves. But other than that, like, I try to keep it as simple as possible.
Sure.
We don't want to overcomplicate it. I mean, because the nice thing about these is like, if you have a leak or if a pump goes bad, or your filter goes bad, everything is so easily interchangeable.
Right.
We don't have a ton of problems, but if we do, it's so simple to just ship a part out, or somebody can swing by and grab one. I think today everything's so overly complicated. Like, they're all heating, Wi-Fi capable, all-in-one chillers, right? So one thing goes wrong, your tub is down, and you're shipping your entire chiller back. You're waiting for them to repair it or send you a new one. I mean, you could be down 2 months without a cold plunge.
Right.
So I've deliberately not made very many changes. I just try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
We do have some ideas coming out for another tub. We're working with Grizzly on, but I mean that'll probably be a year out. It takes a long time to get these molds done,
Sure.
but yeah.
No, I think that's awesome because that's been my experience. Is it almost seems like every part of it that like where something could go wrong is almost like its own little thing.
Yeah.
Very compartmentalized and easy. Like you said, I mean, I'm not mechanical at all, but it's like super duper easy. Plus,
Yeah.
you guys have provided materials and resources and stuff to make it easy. But yeah, and I guess for you guys, what would you say is like your biggest differentiating factor, or what you focus on to say like, hey, we're different than this company or that company that you feel like really sets you apart?
Well, I'll say our passion for one. I mean, I'm not going to knock all these other companies out there, but unfortunately, and it's not wrong, but a lot of companies are in it just solely for the money. They
Sure.
see the opportunity right now, and they're taking a product, drop shipping it from China, and then putting a 10x markup on it and selling it. They don't know what they're selling. They don't know how to maintain them. So our passion and knowledge behind the product, for one. And then I think it's a unique product. I mean, it's literally a cooler, which is designed to keep
Right.
to keep things cold. I love the rugged look.
Yep.
People love that. And like I said, every company almost is now going to these all-in-one chillers, which I think is a big mistake. I've stuck to my guns and said, no, I'm going to keep all these parts external, and it's a better user experience, in my opinion, I believe. So I just think, yeah, the insulation, the simplicity of it, and just my passion, my team's passion and knowledge for the product.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're doing it smart, to scale. Like you said, simple is better. Like you think of how McDonald's is built. They're like, In-N-Out Burger, different franchise models to where it's like simple. Here's what we offer. This is just how we do it. And it's easy to scale instead of getting super complicated. But then number two, I think, yeah, just having the actual consumer in mind, because cool, I got a cold plunge. That's awesome as long as it's working. But if something goes down, like you said, they're going to have to ship it back, and then there's added cost. And I think you said something in the beginning that really stuck with me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it almost seems like you've built the business, number one, from your own passion and experience, but number two, like, sounds like word of mouth was a very big thing in the beginning. And so I think that's how it was with us when we started, is like all we have is our reputation. Word of mouth is the cheapest form of advertising. Like, you take care of your customers, you give them a good experience, they're naturally going to get you more, versus, like you said, somebody pulling something from China, marking it up, sending it out. They're really probably not as concerned about the customer's experience because, some people are going to like it, some people aren't, whatever, kind of move on. But I think building a foundation off of something that you're passionate about and that's, easy to duplicate and is going to provide a good experience is something that, no wonder you've been successful and been able to carry it on. I mean, as you look at the business now versus maybe what you see in, the next few years, I mean, do you see, what is the evolution of Desert Plunge, maybe over the next 3, 5, 10 years down the road?
Yeah, so that's been something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I want to be careful because I want to do one thing and I want to do it really well before we move on to something else. But my vision is kind of, I see Desert Plunge as a wellness brand beyond just cold plunges. I've been getting some samples of some stuff. Maybe we move into saunas, like compression therapy type stuff, red light. I don't know, all stuff that's running through my head. But I hope at some point we are a wellness brand instead of just a cold plunge company. That's what I would love to see. It's going to take some time, but that's my ultimate goal.
That's awesome. If you need a guinea pig for a sauna, dude, let me know. I'll buy one. We'll put it in. I can't DIY it, so we need you to build it. But that's awesome. And that's cool that obviously, you're in the wellness space and you don't have to just be stuck in this bucket and be able to provide value to people. And I guess as you look at it, because it's probably been interesting for you, I would imagine, because like your first 20 years of electrical contractor, now it's like you're running a wellness business and like sky's the limit on that. I mean, what do you feel like you've taken from your journey through the whole thing? Like, if you were to say, here's where I started working, like putting in maybe some personal stuff, like from where you started to where you are now, like as you look back, what stands out to you through that journey? I would imagine it's maybe different than you thought it would be, but are there some things that stood out to you?
Yeah, I'm processing that a little bit. I think a lot of people like look for this shiny, bright object at the end of the yellow brick road, right? And everything is going to be all, everything's going to be perfect and fulfilling, and
Right.
it's going to be the perfect job. Because that was one of the things I struggled with as an electrical contractor. Like, I didn't enjoy it necessarily. I didn't enjoy a lot of aspects of it, and I was getting worn down. But I'm like, there's got to be something else better out there, which I'm glad I made the move. But I think ultimately, like, you're always going to run into struggles. You're always going to run into stresses in life. It's always going to be hard. Like, if you're really going to go after something and want to be impactful and successful, like, you're going to hit a lot of roadblocks.
Right.
And I was like, that's one thing I was like hoping I would avoid. Like, I'm going to start this new company. Everything's going to be perfect, and I'm going to be passionate about it, and I'm not going to have any issues. And obviously, that's been far from the truth.
Right.
So just accepting the fact, like, you know, this is life, and it's just how do you deal with that, and how do you respond to those type of situations. I think that's just one of my. That was a kind of a long answer, but
Oh, it's awesome.
yeah.
Oh, that's great, and I think that is what is on the other side, because when I go back to the sports thing, I think that's how it's so just applicable, that it's like, hey, you got to show up, and you're going to have challenges, and not everything's perfect, but as you continue to learn and grow and you look back, it's like, wow, like going through challenges, doing things you didn't know you could do, solving problems that you didn't even know would be problems. There is this satisfaction to look back and be like, oh, like, it's a confidence in yourself. It's like, hey, now what else can I tackle? But it doesn't happen overnight, and it usually doesn't come from easy times. And as you think forward, I guess, personally and as a brand with Desert Plunge, what do you want your legacy to be, either for yourself or your company, 20, 30, 40 years down the road? Maybe it's your kids, grandkids, if you have them down the road. Like, what would you hope that your legacy was?
Yeah. I hope people can understand and see our passion for the people we serve. I'm a Christian also, so I hope that conveys in the way we deal with people and respond to people and talk to people. And I just hope we're serving people well. And I think that would be the one thing I'd love to be known for, is like, Desert Plunge is a great company because they care about people and they love people and they serve people well.
Damn.
So,
yeah, no, that's awesome. I appreciate you taking the time to come on and share your story, share about Desert Plunge, and also just the impact that you guys are having from a place. And that's, I know I've said it a few times, but authenticity, I feel is very big, because not to knock influencers or anybody like that, but it's like there's so much in the social media world that's not real.
Yeah.
So it's awesome to be associated with people that, own a real business, that are authentic. It's something that's changed your life. It definitely helps with showing up every single day. And if people wanted to find you guys online, do you mind just sharing like your Instagram handles and just places they can find you?
Yeah, at Desert Plunge, desertplunge.com. I think those are too big, the website and the Instagram. Yeah, check us out.
Yeah, great content on there every single day. Always people freaking reposting and tagging you guys, and they actually respond and tag back and stuff, which is great. But I'll say, just being a customer and then knowing Matt and his story, if you're looking for a plunge that's at a very affordable price for a quality product, I mean, I've had it 3 years, 0 problems, and I'm the least mechanical person I know that never had an issue. Check out Desert Plunge. I think I looked up like 10 or 15 different types of cold plunges. I just came across you guys. Had great reviews online, and the experience has been 100% just amazing. So appreciate you taking the time to come on. Thank you guys and gals for checking out another episode of the Be Bright podcast. Remember to like, to subscribe, follow Desert Plunge. They're a great follow on there, and more importantly, look into their products and see how they can help you mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Thanks for coming on.